Hey, hello everyone. This is Dylan with Pickle Apps Games. I'm going to show you how to make a 3D red blue anaglyph renderer in Godot. So this is what we're trying to accomplish. Here it is with the anaglyph off. Here it is with it on. This is for the red cyan or red blue 3D glasses, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so I already have a basic project here. I've added a few images and this shader, which I will show you. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make our world. Okay. And then we're going to add some stuff that moves around. There's nothing special about these. These are just for us to have something to look at. So make a sphere and make a cube. Why not? And a capsule. Make this capsule pretty long. Okay, I'm gonna add some textures to these. So create, no, oh well. Create a new material, spatial, and then we'll go in and set the albedo texture. Okay, there it is. Do the same thing for this one. New material, set the albedo, and same with this one. Okay, alright, dumb stuff. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to animate these. So I'll add an animation player. Create a new animation, doesn't matter what you name it. We're going to set it to autoplay. And then let's make it 5 seconds. So I'm just going to make this rotate. So add a keyframe at frame 0. Then I'll go halfway to the end, which is 2.5 to 180. And then at the end, I'll do 360. And then we'll loop this. Okay, that's all it does. Take our sphere, let's move it. Have it go like right here, and then right here, and check that out. Okay. Same thing with this. Just make it do stuff. Okay, this is just for us to have something to look at. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the player. I'm using a kinematic body just because that's probably what you'll be using anyway. And we'll put a mesh in it just so we have something to look at. Typically for my players, I'll make them 1.8. I like to do that in meters. And now, yeah, that's good. Then I'll move them up 0.9, which is half the height, so that should put them right on the ground. Move them back a little bit. Now we need a camera. Attach it to the player. Make sure it's set to current. Oh, wait. I messed this up. Put this back where it was. Need to move the player, not just the mesh. Okay. Take the camera, move it up. Let's say 0.75. Yeah. And then we'll move it 0.1, no. Minus 0.3, which will put it right on our face. Okay, let's check out the preview. Play this animation. Put the player at a good spot. That's good. Move these up. Okay, that looks good. Let's play it, make sure it works. First we gotta save it. Okay, that's good. Okay, so the next thing that's important is we're gonna have to take our camera and instead of rendering it to the default viewport, we're going to have to make it render to its own viewport. So we'll create a node in our player. We'll call it viewports. In order to make this work, we're going to have 3 different cameras in 3 different viewports, so we'll organize it like this. Now add a viewport. We'll move the camera into the viewport. Okay. Okay, so let me show you something. We're going to have an issue, I think. Let's see. Even though the camera is a child of the player, it won't follow it because it's in its own viewport. So what we need to do is we need to add another node. Just kidding. We need to add a spatial. We'll call this cameras, camera handlers. And we're going to add a remote transform. So wherever this camera handlers is, it will move this camera. So we go to the remote transform, assign it to the camera, and so now when we move the player, the remote transform forces the camera to follow it. My player's in the air. Okay, now we got to move this up to where the eye should be. Did 0.75 and negative 0.3. Okay. Now, let's see what happens when we run the game. Well, you can't see anything. That's because the camera is rendering to a viewport and the viewport isn't connected to anything. So now we're going to create a canvas layer. And we're going to add a control. We'll call this main camera. We need to set this control to full rectangle. Add a texture rectangle here. Set it to full. And then what we need to do is we need to assign a viewport texture. And then choose our viewport. We should change this. Main view. Let's call this center viewport. Why not? Okay, gotta do this again. Now what's happening is the camera is rendering to the viewport, and that viewport is pasting its texture onto this texture rectangle, or so it seems. And see, here's an error. The problem with this is we didn't set a size for the viewport, so it's rendering to nothing. So what I like to do is add a script to the player. What we want to do is we want to notify the player when the window is resized so that we can change the size of our viewports to match it. So we're going to get the tree and connect it, screen resized, connect it to ourself, and connect it to a function called screen resized. Now we'll create that screen resized. Then what we need to do is get our center viewport and set its size to get viewport dot size. So this will get the size of the main viewport, aka the window. And then this won't get called automatically, so we have to call it manually. Now let's see. Good, except it's upside down. So go back to our viewport, go to render target and V-flip. Something else we need to do is we need to turn on our audio, our 3D audio for this to work. And probably this too. There's no audio, but you'll want that on. There. Okay, so the way 3D vision works with humans is we have two eyes, obviously, that are separated from each other, and each eye gets its own image that's slightly offset from the other, and the brain can put those two images together to make a 3D representation of the world. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to duplicate our center viewport 2 times, and then we'll rename this one to left viewport, and this one to right viewport. And then what we need to do is go to our camera handler. Oh, I have to fix this remote path. It's wrong. I need to set it to this center camera. So we'll call this center camera transform. Duplicate it. And left camera transform. Right camera transform. Set this to the left camera, and then set the remote path to the right camera for this one. Then what we need to do is, if you press 5, then it changes it to orthographic. We need to move this slightly to the left of the center. So we go to transform, and you want the cameras to be the same distance apart as eyes are apart, which I measured, and they're about 6.5 centimeters apart. So we want this to be half of that. So we'll do minus 0.033, or let's just say 4. So this is basically meters. So we have, I think that's right. Yeah, this, I like to use meters for this. Okay, now do the opposite for this one. 0.04. And now when we turn off this center, you can see that we have two cameras that are slightly offset from the center. This is for the left and right eye. Let's see. Okay, nothing special. Now we need to add another control, and this is to just show the anaglyph. I could probably come up with better names for this, but I don't care. So what we need to do here is we need to add 2 texture rectangles. Call this left view. Why not? Right view. We need to set this control to be full size, and same with both of these, full size. So now for the left view, we'll assign a new viewport texture to the left viewport. And for the right, a new viewport texture, assign it to the viewport. Let's check these. Okay, these are fine. We need to go back into our player code and make sure that the left and right viewports are resized as well. Okay, so this will change whenever the size of the screen is changed, and at the start of the game, it will fix the size of the viewports. So let me turn on, okay, sync is already turned on. So we'll turn off this camera. So we'll get just our main view, right? If I turn this on, it'll show, you can't really tell, but it's showing these two. So what we need to do now is we need to set the colors for this. So my particular 3D glasses are red on the left and blue on the right. So for the left view, we're going to change our modulate to pure red, just red, nothing else. And for the right view, we're going to change it to blue, nothing but blue, and our alpha will be half, which is 128. Now it's better to have red cyan glasses. If that were the case, then you'd want to turn up the green. So you're cutting out the red on one eye and cutting out the green and blue on the other eye. And I'm actually going to leave it like this because it still looks good with the red and blue. So let's check out how this looks. That's normal. And there's the anaglyph. You can see that there's red and blue overlaid on top of these objects. Okay, that's fine. Now one thing you'll probably notice is that the anaglyph image is very dark in comparison. So what we need to do is we actually need to add something to brighten this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color rectangle and put it after the left view and the right view. And I'm going to add a new material, a shader material. Okay, and I already have my shader, so I'm just going to load it and edit it to show you what it is. So it's canvas item, and we have a parameter for brightness, which I'm going to actually change to 2. This will basically double the brightness of the screen. And then we have our fragment, which is for every pixel on this color rectangle. Now what I'm using is I'm using the screen texture, which is, when you use the screen texture, it basically takes a screenshot of the game as it currently is and allows you to read from that. So then all you do is you mix black, I guess, with the color at that particular pixel on the screen and with brightness, and return that. I didn't write this, so I can't really explain it all, but it works. And then, let's see, this needs to go away. Where did these go? Oh, duh. We need to make sure that this is the full size of the screen as well. So now let's see. This is with it off. You see there's no red or blue around it. This is with it on. It's the same brightness. So now, if you put on your 3D glasses, then it should look three-dimensional. You may want to mess around with the distance of the eyes right here to make it look better. If you use that, you can exaggerate it a little bit to make the 3D effect more obvious. Yeah, see, there you go. When you do it with red and cyan versus red and blue, you get much more vivid and more accurate colors. One of the things you have to remember about using this anaglyph is that we're rendering the screen twice, which can affect your performance. So let me turn on the print FPS option and turn off the anaglyph. Let's see what we got. About 45-ish. Now let's see what happens when we turn on the anaglyph. Pretty good drop in speed. It's actually pretty visible too. What you can do for that is we can actually use a smaller resolution for the left and right camera viewports. So if you go into your player script and you go to your left and right viewports and say divide by 2, oh, see, now I got a problem here, but I know how to fix it. Go to your anaglyph camera textures and set them to expand. There. You can see it's a lower resolution, but it's a faster frame rate. It's like 10 frames faster. And that's pretty much it. If you got your 3D glasses, put them on now. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Have fun. I'll add a link to this project file in the description. Goodbye.